Mike, your mic is muted, Joe. We can't hear you.
Yeah, Joe, no sound, Joe.
It was working before the show. Something has changed. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. We're having a little technical issue here with the start of this program. Nope. We got no audio. Hey, Kent.
Calling
Kent, are you there? Can you help?
Yeah, I'm here. Not sure.
Joe's audio just dropped out right in time for the beginning of the show. Good heavens. This is a new and join us. We have technical issues with guests, but we've never had a mic problem with the host of the show. Stand by, everybody. We're going to be talking about the something called NOACA today, Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency. If that sounds unfamiliar to you, I'm not surprised. It's something not a lot of people know about, but you should. We're going to be having Rep. Dovilla on, and we've got special guest Skip Claypool, who has served on the board and now is an indirect board member at NOACA to tell us about this organization. It's a Cleveland-based organization. I don't want to give away too much, but I'll put it in my lay terms just to tee things up while they work on tech issues and get Joe's microphone working. This Cleveland-based organization, NOACA for short, Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency, influences and really seeks to control a great deal of 5 counties, not just Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, but Lorain, Medina, Lake, and Geauga County and Cuyahoga, of course. So the objective, the mission, the drive of this organization, it's like creeping, sprawling. It's like a weed. It's been growing like cancer for a long time. In today's episode, we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about efforts to rein it in, which can be difficult. This is government, after all. Government it spreads easily, it grows fast, but it can be really difficult, as we've seen with all the Doge-like conversations. It can be difficult to get it back under control, but we have to. We have to do it not just for this region, not just for Northeast Ohio, but Ohio itself, just one of the 50 states, has 17 such organizations. So they're off radar for most. Ohio has, as I said, 17. The Cleveland-based organization, NOACA, is creeping and sprawling and spreading. And frankly, I think they're a template for what is intended to be done by other similar organizations. And yes, we're going to get into the description of how they got started, when they got started, what their original mandate was, and how they've gotten so far away from that. It's just breathtaking. Originally, and I'm just speaking in lay terms. We'll get the experts on in a couple minutes when we figure out the tech issue, but I'll kind of tee things up in my understanding just to set the stage for today's conversation. NOACA was formed as what's called a Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO for short, which were mandated by the federal government for areas where you have...
Test.
Hey, there he is. Joe, we can hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe is back.
All right, okay. All right. I just had to reset stuff on my... and that's terrible that we went through all that malarkey. Okay. So what you want to do is, we're going to get started here now. But what we want to do is...
just threw the whole rhythm off.
I can't, it throws all the rhythm off, and I can't start over because we lose the stream. All right, you can't stop and then start over. You lose the stream when you're live streaming. So we just got to keep persevering on. But that, I'm sorry about that. Very, very sorry about that. So that just lost the audio for a little bit there. Let me just talk here a little bit. Okay, let's go on to some of these news stories real quick. Then we're going to talk NOACA. Everything you wanted to know about NOACA, but you couldn't stand. And I think it's NOACA who got into this system somehow. Grace Gallucci got into the system. I know. All right, here's Chuck Schumer. Guys, let me ask you this. Is this racist or not? I
Yes.
know he's saying that black people and poor people cannot get an ID to vote. Does that not sound racist?
Yeah.
Black
It's
people and
blatantly,
poor people
ridiculously
cannot
racist.
get an ID to vote, so you can't have voter ID. How do you drive a car? How do you get any booze? How do you buy cigarettes? How do you get a book out of a library? You need an ID, right? But to say that, I mean, could you imagine that? That just sounds, if a Republican were to say that, that sounds very racist to me. It just has that racist spring to it. Let me see. This is on our podcast or our X. Hey, Tex Fisher, Brian, Tex Fisher is behind us 100%. Abolish the property taxes, and so is Jennifer Gross.
Jennifer Gross, right?
Yeah, so we'll
Yes.
talk about all of that a little bit later on with the funding and the schools and that. They have a $10 billion rainy day fund, according to Chris Long here, a $10 billion excess rainy day fund, all that kind of stuff. And I thought there was something. Oh, you know who this is? This is the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy. I thought he passed away. He's right there. Okay, he's right there, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I
know
showed
who
you
you're
this
going
last
to.
week. I showed you this last week. Well, one more time. This is 1970 along the beach, and this is 2025 along the exact same beach. But oh, you can't see it, can you?
We can't see it.
You guys can't see anything I was just talking about.
Oh, I can see that now. Yeah, 2025.
Ah.
That's what we look like. And
We got whale alert.
This is the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy. I'm going back. You must not have been able to see any. If you can't see it, tell me. Here's Chris Long. He said the schools have $10 billion in rainy day fund. What else?
yeah, and the state only has $4 billion in their rainy day fund.
Yeah, the entire state of Ohio has $4 billion in their rainy day fund, but the schools have $10 billion, and they need more. Okay, they need more. All right. Well, this
According
is
to them,
That's-
and the teacher,
Legislators say it's never enough for the schools.
no,
Never enough.
it's never enough. We got to get one of our guests on here tonight, Skip Claypool. We're going to be talking NOACA. All right, Skip. So everything seems to be back to normal now. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, I wanted to mention something else real quick here. We'll get right to Skip. But the Browns, I don't know if you guys heard about this. They want to triple the sin tax to pay for the maintenance of the new stadium. And this was out of Cleveland.com. But the $2.4 billion dome stadium that they want to build, it's like, who's going to own it? And it's going to be a nonprofit group created by Brook Park who would own it. But you know who's going to be sitting primarily on the board of directors of that nonprofit? The Haslam Group people. And the plan calls for tripling the sin tax on alcohol. They want to pay for maintenance and manage the lease.
Do you know how big a region, Joe? Is that countywide,
County.
statewide, or
Yeah,
what?
Cuyahoga County.
Countywide?
Yeah. Yeah, triple it from what it is now. So right now, the hardest hit is the hard liquor. The sin tax, you pay $3 extra for a bottle of whiskey. So if this goes
Well,
in,
you could come over to Geauga or Lake
right.
County and get cheaper alcohol then.
you get it a lot cheaper at those other places. Yeah, that's what everybody's going to do. So now it'd be $9 more if you want alcohol. Nobody can afford it. So the reasoning is stupid because these legislators and politicians, they think that, oh, we'll just triple the price of the sin tax, but they're going to also decrease consumption. They don't think in two terms at the same time. To them, it's just, oh, consumption will stay the same. Let's just triple it. We'll get 3 times the amount of money.
It's just perpetual greed.
That's the way they think. All right. Skip, how are you? So now let's talk about NOACA here. And, let me just start this off, and then you guys take over and run with it, okay? But I got this out of a highly reputable source called the Maple Leaf. It was, got it out of the Maple Leaf. Okay, so in January of 2023, it says NOACA held a climate planning forum in Geauga County. All right. It said that many of the attendees heckled the presenters, laughed, they poked fun at the slides, they submitted comments like defund NOACA. It was chaotic, prompting police presence, although no serious disturbances occurred. NOACA officials characterized a portion of the attendees as a group affiliated with Geauga County Tea Party. Citizen Skip Claypool, I don't know who that is, former local official, claimed NOACA lacks statutory authority for their climate action program effort and denied public participants meaningful input. We also have, you also said, Skip, that you accused the agency of bad science and overreach when it came to climate change. Jonathan Broadbent was somebody in there. You made the newspaper also, Jonathan. You characterized, NOACA as an unelected bureaucratic body wielding undue power with no avenue for citizens' redress. And they also quoted Tiffany Broadbent, and she said that she requested Geauga County to explore exiting NOACA, citing dissatisfaction with its climate-focused agenda. All right, there you go. So you made the maple leaf, Skip. What was that all about? Give us a little rundown on NOACA. What's your thoughts on that whole process?
Well,
and tell us what it is.
We don't have enough time tonight to cover all of the question you just asked. But let me give you this. First of all, NOACA is a federally mandated organization. I was just having a conversation with Mr. Dovilla 2 days ago, and we were talking about the constitutionality of MPOs. NOACA is a metropolitan planning organization, MPO, and highly questionable in terms of their constitutionality. There's some people debate the number, but there's somewhere around 33 to 11 enumerated rights in the Constitution, and none of them cover road planning in a state. So the federal government chose high population centers, cities, to implement this mandated organization to take care of road planning or infrastructure planning. That's the 18.4 cents a gallon gas tax that we pay. And so they implemented something called an NPO. NOACA is the most progressive, I will claim, Marxist organization in the state of Ohio, and they're kind of like the leader. The other NPOs are kind of following suit. But they've extended their tentacles into economic development, land use planning, regional planning, climate action plan, and many, many other areas that don't fall underneath their charter. And so the bottom line is they're a federally mandated organization. How the federal government can mandate something in a state, just supposed to have states' rights, is beyond me. But the various MPOs, and as I think Jonathan said earlier, there's 17 MPOs in the state of Ohio, 33 counties. Each of them is organized a little differently. So Akron and Portage County, they have AMATs and SCATs, and they do more planning kind of stuff. NOACA is a council on governments. That is insidious. Council on governments are insidious. And I say that because a council on governments are a bunch of elected people that come together to decide themselves how to do things for an area, in this case a region, a 5-county region. But I don't elect the majority of the people. The citizens of Geauga County don't elect the majority of the people on that council. Therefore, it's not an elected, it's an unelected bureaucratic organization that impacts me and my county. And we don't get a chance to make a change there. We can't change it in the end. When NOACA was first created, they were created under a contract. 3 county commissioners per county. There were 7 counties then. Now there's only 5 counties. 2 of them got ticked off and left. And so Akron and Portage County, or Stark County, I'm sorry. And so they left. That sets a precedent, by the way, which means you can leave NOACA. But
I do want to stress one thing here. So there's 17 of these metropolitan planning organizations, but we're going to concentrate on just one of the 17 tonight because it affects Geauga
Yep.
County, which you guys are in. It
Well, not
affects
just Geauga,
Cuyahoga,
I mean,
which I'm in.
yeah.
And
Well,
stuff.
and
What is the main problem, Skip? Oh, did he freeze up? Looks like Skip may have froze.
I think Skip may have frozen, but I can interject what he was going to say.
I'm good.
He's back.
All right. Let me just get your thought on this. What is the main issue that people need to be concerned about when it comes to NOACA? What's the main issue they should be concerned about?
Well, the main issue is actually a threefold answer to that question. They've usurped their authority or usurped local elected authority. So it's a large, and I will call it a Marxist organization, and I can defend that statement. Marxist organization that pushes these very left-wing ideas into the region, and we don't have any control over it. Cuyahoga County and Cleveland have gained control, and wrongly, they have gained control, and that's what I hope Mike Dovilla is able to fix through legislation. But the Cuyahoga County, Cleveland, the number of votes that they have exceed what all the other surrounding ring, what we call the ring counties, ring communities, can vote. So all of the ring counties combined cannot outvote Cleveland Cuyahoga County. It's a monopoly. It's a tyranny. And right now they're pushing climate change, which is adverse to our current president's directives, and they're violating the law, the DEI executive order that President Trump executed, and they can get away with that because they can ignore all of the other counties and their voting power. The rest of the counties are just at the table as a facade. That's the main issue. And they're pushing Marxist ideas, which have destroyed Cleveland, by the way. Cleveland is a disaster, in my opinion, for a variety of reasons, economically and socially. But they're pushing those ideas out into our communities. They want to change our communities to be this progressive nightmare that Cleveland and Cuyahoga County is. That's the biggest problem. And we've got to either leave NOACA or, and by the way, for whoever's listening to this podcast, we are in control. The problem is our residents, either through ignorance or through a lack of a spine, will not stand up. If the people in northeastern Ohio were informed and motivated, we could end this. It's not necessary.
I do want to stress one thing. We have Mike Dovilla coming on at 7:30. He is state rep of 17, which is Berea, Strongsville, places like that. And I think that's what he's pushing for, some kind of representation from the state reps. So we have some kind of governmental representation. We need it because of the overreach and stuff with NOACA. So we'll be talking to him here in just a couple of minutes, but I'll just bounce it off you guys for a second. Jonathan, is that right? In your opinion also, is that like what the overreach is with NOACA? Is it like climate change? Is it 15-minute cities? What is it?
It's all of the above. So Skip happens to be a friend of mine, and he is a conduit for me to figure out the ins and outs of this thing. He's been studying it a lot longer than I have, but I'm one of those people that's very concerned about my quality of life and the people around us. And I love America. I love the things that America stands for. Our freedoms, our liberties, our autonomy, our ability for self-determination. I'm also a small business owner, and all of those things matter. We need to have an environment where we have representative government. And if I boil it down, I'm with Skip. This is complex enough. It's been growing for whatever it's been, 58 years or however long NOACA has been around. It is insidious and it's complex in the long-term plan. All of it's there, by the way. Everything you hear people like Skip talk about when he mentions Agenda 2021 and Agenda 2030 and that EIP or whatever it's called, When he talks about those things, that's your cue, our audience, to go out there and verify this stuff. You're going to find the things. It's all published. What these types of organizations hope for is that you don't have the initiative, you don't have the wherewithal to go and self-study, to go and confirm these things. If you do, when you do, you'll find that it's all true. But getting back to my foreboding about this horrendous thing, it takes all of that away. One of the key components that we really should embrace and love and enjoy about our country is our ability to go to our government and say, I'm unhappy. I want things done differently. And if you organize and you create a rallying cry, you can get, or should be able to get, government to listen to you and respond. That's that whole thing of by the people, for the people, and of the people. So what NOACA does is usurps all of that and replaces it with tyrannical top-down bureaucracy that is untouchable. You can't get to it. So when bad things happen, and they already are, and there are lots of them, there's no avenue for complaint. You can maybe, if you're lucky, figure out a way to go onto a website and print out a form and fill it out and submit it somewhere. But that's it. When NOACA has its way, if they have their way, you going to your local representatives who you elect to office and complaining about something is going to do no good, because they're just going to shrug and point to this bureaucracy, this nightmare based out of Cleveland, and say, well, they told us to do it. Go argue with them, which you cannot do. There's, in fact, just by way of example of how ridiculous and horrendous this entire operation is, there are a few times when people like Skip have organized rallies to go down and confront NOACA to their face in their organization. They have board meetings. In one of them, and this is a sign of the type of people we're dealing with, and we don't want them in Medina, Lake, Geauga, Lorain counties taking over control. But in this one meeting, just one example of many that I could choose from, a whole bunch of people went into a board meeting, and at one point, I'm going to paraphrase, I think somebody in the audience raised their hand. They put their hand up because they had a question. And somehow that turned into this crazy narrative that there were Nazis doing a Nazi salute. And the media, the press, all these people picked up on that as if that had any basis in reality or anything to do with anything. It's using the left's racist agenda to try to silence people. That's just a little tip of the iceberg indication of the lengths that this organization will go to shut people up and stop people from talking. If they have their way, they will have migrated so far away from their original objective, their mission, which was roads and bridges, and into controlling our movements and roads and where we can travel and when we can travel, and air and water and sewer and lakefront access and everything. They can use that whole climate change agenda, that climate action plan is what they call it. I actually post all over social media. I call it a climate action takeover plan, because that's what it truly is. If they have their way with that, they can use the climate fear thing for virtually anything, literally. I mean, you can think about the amount of control. They can tell you who can have power and when, who cannot have access to gasoline to fuel their car. They can control virtually every element. Who can do farming, what type of agriculture, what type of farming, how many acres you're allowed to use, and on and on and on the list goes.
Well,
Your consumption of water, they can force it all under climate action.
Let me ask Skip a quick question on this when you go to our Mike Dovilla coming up. But what Jonathan was just saying and everything, does NOACA have that kind of power? What can they do?
Yes, and so actually, if you look at the climate action plan, I have some slides that I took out of the climate action plan. One of those slides said, in order for us to implement this climate action plan, which, by the way, again, is contrary to the current EPA, the current Ohio Department of Transportation, and President Trump. So it's totally off the reservation. But they had said in there, in order for them to execute much of what they want to accomplish, they need more authority. So they need the state legislature to give them the authority to execute some of this stuff. And so they're going to seek that. They're lobbying for that. But let me tell you this. This is a little insidious element here that very few people pay attention to. Only because I've been following this so long, and I do public information requests and pick up on stuff in presentations and so forth. ODOT, there's a guy by the name of Randy Lane, which is now the lead planner for Ohio Department of Transportation. He was a longtime employee of NOACA, and he's a far left wing planner. And so he now created a plan called AO 2050 for ODOT. If you look at the guts of that plan, they say in that plan, and I can show that to you if we had more time, or if you're interested, that it's all based on environmental justice, equity, and DEI. So the guiding compass is that. Randy Lane, who was with NOACA, is now with ODOT, creating the same plans he created for NOACA, but at a state agency level, and taking that same thinking into a state agency. NOACA has their tentacles into the EPA. So they say, oh, we don't have the authority to implement things. Well, guess what? Ohio State EPA does. Ohio State Department of Transportation does. And so they have influence over state agencies. And these state agencies, all the way up to our governor, by the way, do have the power to implement things and to influence the direction on things. That's how insidious this is. This is the deep state on steroids in the state of Ohio. NOACA and other NPOs pulling on the oars. I'm looking at a slide right now, and I can show it to you if you wanted me to share it with you. This comes out of the Climate Action Plan. This shows the nonsense that's at the heart of what they do from a planning perspective, and how they push agendas, and they take money and they spend money to do all kinds of nonsense. In there, they say the air quality benefits of their Climate Action Plan is they list statistics. The annual impact is they're going to avoid 119 heart attacks at a cost of $10 million. They're going to save 84 cases of Alzheimer's at a savings of $1.9 million. They're going to avoid Parkinson's disease, 12 of those at $280 million. Strokes, 10 of those at $641,000. How the hell, you tell me,
exactly,
how climate change is going to impact any of those things? We all know heart attacks are a function of genetics, diet, and habits, and yet they're going to avoid heart attacks and save us $10 million through the Climate Action Plan. And what makes me as angry as I can be is I sit on that board, and Medina and Lake County and Geauga County and Cuyahoga County elected officials sit there, they listen to these statistics, and not one of them will comment on them, with the exception of a couple of us. I'm probably the most outspoken. But nobody will speak up and call out that the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, where did they get those?
I can't figure that out.
Yeah, where did they get those statistics? Crazy. I'm going to see if Mike is with us. Mike, are you with us here? Can you hear me, Mike?
I'm here, Joe.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Skip, how are you?
Good.
All right, there he is. Okay, but good to have you with us here tonight. We've kind of warmed up because we've been talking NOACA already, so we're kind of warming up, and we have Skip Claypool with us, and Jonathan Broadbent and Brian. So all of these guys are pretty well versed in NOACA to some degree. But I wanted to talk, since we have you on here tonight, about the legislation that you're putting through. And let me just say that for people who don't know, you're in House District 17, covering Berea, Strongsville, Olmsted Falls, North Royalton. You served, this is interesting, you did serve in the State House from 2011 to 2016, and then you were reelected again in 2015, which is good because you're doing a lot, and I really applaud you for that, and it's good to have you in there. Now, on July 30th, you announced that you had legislation to impose state-level regulation and oversight over MPOs such as NOACA. All right. So what does that mean? What's that up to?
Well, we've got a few elements to it, and the legislation hasn't been dropped yet. LSC is still working on it at this point, but there's sort of four main components. I'll just run through these, and then we can talk about them a little bit more if you all like to. The first one is board structure, and I think Skip was maybe alluding to this as I was just hopping on here, but we want to make sure that any MPO that's organized as a council of government or a COG, which NOACA is, can't have a majority of voting members from a single county, because we know that there's serious imbalance in the way that it's done right now, and there's imbalance even within my county, within Cuyahoga, that I think prevents folks out here from having the voice that they should out in the suburban areas. Secondly, it would allow for the governor of the state to redesignate MPO membership, and we're basing this on essentially on commuting patterns from the Census Bureau. So if a county wishes to move to a contiguous MPO, it can do that, provided that 25% of the workers who are estimated to make that shift over to the other county are moving across county lines from one to the next. And then federal and state compliance, as was alluded to already, there are a lot of things that are going on right now where NOACA and other MPOs are just thumbing their nose at federal and state law. So, if you take the president's executive orders, for example, on DEI and this type of thing, NOACA is still proceeding right ahead with the types of things that they've been doing for a while with their equity subcommittee, DEI plan, so forth. And then last, an employment requirement for the executive, that any MPO organized as a COG cannot have a chief executive that has employment outside of the state. So those are the things we're looking at just initially, and legislation changes as it goes through the process, but those are the four elements that we think will begin to tackle some of the real challenges that we see both here in the suburbs of Cuyahoga County and then also in the other counties that comprise this particular MPO at this point in time. And I've got a great joint sponsor who's going to join on this as well. We haven't made this public yet, so I'm going to hold that for the time being. But he's in a different MPO in another part of the state, and I think is equally interested in seeing us sort of chip away at unelected bureaucratic power that accrues to these types of organizations. My bottom line on it is ultimately I think that these are unconstitutional entities. That's a fight that I can't necessarily have right now at the state level. Talk to your federal representatives on that, and I know those conversations are underway with both of our senators and perhaps some others. But all this dates back, as you all know, to the Johnson administration in the 1960s. It's a giant power grab for unelected bureaucracy, and frankly, these entities need to go away.
All right, let me just piggyback here for a minute, and then let some of the other guys fill in some of the blanks of what you were saying there. But your legislation is to take some of the power away from NOACA, correct? Or the MPOs in general. NOACA is one of 17 of them in Ohio.
Yeah.
So what I was doing a little research here, it looks like they don't report to anybody. NOACA, for instance, has its board of directors. They get their federal money. They get some state money, lots of federal money. Most of it's federal money. They get some state money, and they don't report to the governor. They don't report to ODOT. I mean, ODOT can talk to them about a few things, but it's like when push comes to shove, they're their own entity, and they only report to their board of directors. And so those could be mayors or something, or they could just be, I guess, regular citizens as well. Tell me again, how are you reining in some of the power? What's the main way that you're reining in some of that power?
The main way is the first thing that I mentioned, which is to help provide counties in two different ways additional authorities. One, to not be just flat out outvoted, and we'll just use different numbers. So I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but say a board has 11 people on it. No one county could have more than five votes, right? I at least want conversation to have to take place to bring somebody else from another county on board in order to get something done. And, the example that I'm reminded of here recently is at the federal level, and these are not folks that we necessarily would think are on our side of things, but Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, they've become incredibly important lately in the United States Senate. And it's because they hold the cards on the last couple votes that are needed for the majority to get done what it needs to get done or not. Counties that are part of MPOs ought to have that privilege as well, so that it's not just the sole county in the urban core and really the main city within the main county of the urban core that are making these decisions that then impact other counties that are part of these entities through these agreements. I mean, that ultimately, it runs afoul of what representative Republican government looks like in our country. So just, refer back to the founders and the way that we're supposed to be doing things. A lot of what accrues here is taxation without representation. It's power that's unelected. People who are on these boards are elected in their own right to their own offices by the residents of their communities, their districts, their counties, but they're not elected to this board in the same sense. They're appointed to it and then are making decisions that impact millions of people around a region without any real recourse for voters to be able to have to say, I don't like what you're doing. If folks don't like what I'm doing, Joe, in my district, they can tell me that at the end of a 2-year period. That doesn't happen with folks who are on the NOACA board or other MPO boards.
Hey, Joe, do you mind if I set the record straight on something real quick? Because it bears on this conversation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Council on Governments, as you said, are wholly powerful on their own. That's the reason they're a Council on Governments, a combined set of elected officials on a board. And by the way, Geauga County is impacted by Lorain County, Medina County, Lake County, their decisions that they're making, and Cuyahoga County, which controls the board. But the MPO was established solely for federal roads, period. End of story. The 18.5 cents a gallon is what they manage from an infrastructure standpoint. So in Geauga County, 99.99% of our infrastructure is taken care of through local levies. Our townships take care of their own roads. Our county takes care of the county roads. The state takes care of its roads through the 38 cents a gallon gas tax. And the only infrastructure that NOACA has any say over legally is federal or federalized roads. Federalized meaning the arterial roads that feed the other roads. NOACA, as a council on governments, has made some choices. It chose as a large council on governments to get involved with the EPA. It's not required by law. They chose to, and the EPA agreed with them. Didn't have to. The EPA could say, no, we're not doing business with you, but they chose to. So air quality, water quality, decisions and some planning happens to filter through NOACA, and they're involved in it. They're not to a large degree, but they get no state funding. They only get the 18.5 cents a gallon gas tax dollars through a block grant back through the Department of Transportation. So the federal government gives Ohio a block grant. Ohio Department of Transportation gives some part of that through an MPO pocket of money that they have, because there's a lot of counties not in MPOs, and they get money too from the federal government. So they can go to pockets set up that ODOT sets up for non-MPO counties. MPOs get to compete for the dollars that are set aside for MPOs. So they compete on that. But it's only, the point I'm trying to make is, and it's very important because NOACA doesn't want you to think this. They want you to think they control all the infrastructure. They do not. And that's a big part of why we have a problem with our MPOs, and hopefully what Mike will be able to solve. We need to put them back into their lane. And not thinking they can control economic development, that they can control land use planning, that they control EPA and air quality and climate action. They get to control none of that by federal mandate. If you look at the law associated with how they were established, they only get to do roads and bridges, period. And they've exceeded their boundaries because we let them get away with it. And our elected officials, my elected officials in Geauga County, Lake County, Medina, all sit at that table and allow these guys to exceed their authority when they don't push back, and that's a big problem.
All right. I'm going to bring the other guys in just a minute, but Mike, I have another question real quick, and this is on the Bishop Road interchange. So
Boston Road?
what I say? Yeah, the Boston Road. The Boston Road interchange, where is your legislation going to somehow fix that, where people are unhappy with something that NOACA is doing and they're pushing back, and then the state reps could come into the help the people? They could come in and work with the people, right? Instead of just allowing NOACA to do whatever they want. That's part of your legislation, that Boston Road interstate thing.
It's not specifically part of this. It was actually dealt with in the transportation budget this year, House Bill 54, which precluded state action on that. For the time being, it did kick it back to NOACA to determine in the form of a study what the actual correct resolution of that needs to be. But some of the reps from Medina County and Senator Romanchuk over in the Senate district, that also includes Medina County, were working hard on that issue. I staked out a position on it in my primary in late 23, early 24. I was opposed to the interchange going in. I'm opposed to it specifically based on putting a provision in state law, because I think it would set a terrible precedent that could then be used as it's a hyper-local issue that you then put in the revised code and try to resolve at the state level. That's just not the right way to do lawmaking, in my opinion, or public policy making. So I prefer to have that done with impartial, evidence-based data that tells us whether or not that interchange is needed at that location. My suspicion, based on the growth that we're seeing primarily in Medina County at this point, is that additional interchanges are probably indicated there rather than in along the county border. But again, we want to let the evidence actually demonstrate where the need is, not have a provision in state law that's not associated with good public policy, and then not just merely leave it to NOACA to make a political decision on it.
Gotcha. All right, Brian, I'm going to give you a chance. And Jonathan, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. We've talked about this some time ago about Lake County, pulling out and joining forces with Geauga and the Lorain and the other counties. What does it take for Lake County to pull out and form its own MPO? Is that the commissioners, or is that the governor? Who actually can decide that?
Well, that's one of the things the legislation is designed to tackle, is to allow, and I want to take a closer look at what current law is on it, but our provision would allow the governor to make that decision based on census data and commuting data. And those are provisions that are still being drawn up for us at this point. But that, along with the first provision that I mentioned, with respect to making sure that no one county in an MPO that's organized as a COG should be able to have a functional majority that then overrides the will of the people that live, in this instance, in 4 other counties, and to a lesser extent, even to folks who live in my district who are within that majority county, but are not always having their equities protected. And it's certainly anti-democratic in terms of them being able to make decisions through their actual elected officials rather than folks appointed to this bureaucratic board.
So, Brian, to answer your question on Federal Code 23 CFR 450, from a federal perspective, outlines specifically how an MPO is created. And that's done by local elected officials, and there's some parameters around that. You have to represent a certain 75% of the affected population. County commissioners represent 75% of an affected county's population. And so that's one of the requirements. I'm reading that right out of the paragraph. You have to have a population that's an urbanized population greater than 50,000, and the elected officials in that area have to represent 75% of that population. So you have to have people in the local area who decide they want an MPO or be an MPO, and then they form an MPO through this process, which involves going to the largest city in your community, getting their approval. You create an agreement between you as a body on how you're going to operate as an MPO and take it to the government. It's very simple, relatively speaking, in that you have your elected officials, county commissioners, and the largest city in your county put together an agreement, take it to the governor signs off, and you're an MPO. Lake County, and because I've talked to folks in Lake County about this. Lake County and Geauga County could separate. Lorain and Medina County could separate. They've got contiguous population, urbanized populations. They could draft an agreement to work together, get the largest city in their counties to agree, and then form an agreement, take it to the governor. There is some argument NOACA will make that their bylaws say you have to go to them for permission. I believe it to be completely bogus. And I believe that because you can't override federal law. They can't create a set of bylaws that supersede federal law. And the federal law is very clear. It lays out specifically, here's how you create an MPO. The NOACA can't usurp federal authority. So the federal government says, this is how you do it, follow these rules, and no, NOACA, you don't get to have any say over it. So if we in Geauga County and Lake County said, go pound salt, we're not asking you for permission, we're doing this, we could do it, and at the very least, just not pay our dues, and what are they going to do? They're going to throw us out because we're not paying our dues. But anyway, so it's in 23, chapter 23 CFR 450, and it's easy to read. You can read how you do it. There it is.
Yeah, thank you. I know Commissioner Plechnik was not a real big fan of NOACA, but I'm not sure where Commissioner Beveridge or the other commissioners really standing.
The last time I
Rich
talked to
Begovic.
Beveridge, he was all in favor of leaving NOACA. I had a conversation
Well,
with
if we've
him
got
about
two out of three, and then Rich Regovich.
Yeah, but now
So
you gotta get
how do we do that?
conversation.
Is that the citizens push that, Skip?
Yes. The citizens have to light a fire under elected officials. Right now, we have two deadheads, and I'm sorry if they listen to this. I don't care. Jim Dvorak and Carolyn Brakey, Shaky Brakey, are a problem for Geauga County. And so it's sad that we now have two county commissioners in there that will probably go along with NOACA. And so that's a problem in us separating, because I don't know that they would be willing to do it. But we've got somebody running against Jim Dvorak, and so I can tell you Ralph Spitaleri would be in favor of leaving NOACA, and the new guy, if he won, beat Jim Dvorak, then he would be in favor, and so there may be hope for that. But with Mike involved now and the state legislature involved, they could tighten the rules or change the rules slightly, because the government gets to sign off. States get to decide at the end of the day how MPOs are operating. So each MPO in the state of Ohio is organized differently. MPO or the NOACA chose to operate as a council on governments. That's their choice. They don't have to set it up that way. They chose to. Actually, they chose to create a contract in the very beginning, which they have violated the contract. That's a separate issue. But so they get to choose how they operate. As long as the government goes along with however they choose to organize, then there's some wiggle room in terms of how they're organized and how they operate. I'm thinking that Mike and the state legislature can tighten up those rules a bit and provide some more structure, some more guidelines on it. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
ask a
but
quick
the
question.
argument, Skip, that Lake County's got to stay in there in the MPO so that we get, quote, our fair share of the road construction funds. Does that hold any water, or would
No.
we get that from ODOT anyway without MPOs?
It's a false argument, and I can give you a very specific. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't want to hog the time here, but no, it's silly. If you look at, there's two kinds of dollars, and Mike and I talked about this the other day. There's MPO dollars. So when Ohio gets the block grant back through the Federal Department of Transportation to Ohio divvies that money up. They have a pile of money, they divvy it up to the various MPOs. There's a set of dollars, and in NOACA's case, about $35 million. That's their money that they have discretion over. In addition to that, there's a pile of money that are MPO big dollars. So like the Vrooman Road project that was done here a few years ago in Lake County, that cost about $30 million. That's too big. That exceeds NOACA's budget, the discretionary money. That's the big money. Anybody who's an MPO gets to compete for that money. So if Lake and Geauga County decided to become an MPO, we would compete with NOACA for the big dollars. And so we would get all of the MPO dollars that would be allocated to us as an MPO, the discretionary dollars, and we get to compete for the big dollars. It's hard for me to get anybody on that board. Most of the people on the board are ignorant about how the NOACA financials and the funding work and the TIP plan works. The vast majority of the people that sit on that board have no clue how that TIP plan works or how NOACA and the financials work. The only ones that have better insight are the county engineers, but the commissioners, generally speaking, don't really understand the flow of money through NOACA and how that works.
Let me get Mike.
Thank you very much.
Let me get Mike on here for a minute. So I got a question I'm going to give to Jonathan here in a minute, but we hear a lot of pushback against NOACA here. I'm not real familiar with it, but what does NOACA do that's good? They've got to be doing some good, right? Are you aware of any good that they do? And what is the purpose of NOACA?
Well, most of what we hear is negative, of course, but as Skip's pointed out, their correct lane is in the transportation space, and that's really what they're supposed to be moving federal dollars to help us do, through the auspices of ODOT and others here at the local level. Everything else that's being done outside of that, climate action plan, murals on the side of their building, whatever it is this week, all of that is outside of the scope of what they're designed to do under federal law and regulation.
Okay, gotcha. So it's supposed to be mostly transportation, and they've taken on climate change and all this other stuff.
All kinds of nonsense. So first of all, welcome back, Rep. Dovilla. Great, good to see you again. Thank you for tackling this. NOACA has been the thorn in the side of many of us for years. You are probably very familiar with John Kalis. That is a recommendation for our audience. Find John Kalis on Substack and other platforms and follow him. I think it's Kalas, maybe two L's, I forget.
Mm-hmm.
John Kalis, one L, thanks, Skip. John Kalis has been writing on this for a long time. He does these deep exposés on NOACA in particular. Rep. Dovilla and Skip have both touched on this. Actually, I think Skip, early on in the discussion before Rep. Dovilla joined us, mentioned in the imbalance of power, it is egregious. In this circumstance, just picture Northeast Ohio. We've got 5 counties, the Cuyahoga County and surrounding 4. Cuyahoga County, I can't emphasize this enough. Cuyahoga County on the board at NOACA has more votes than the other 4 counties combined. So if whatever Cuyahoga County votes for on anything, they override all the other 4 counties. We could team up and decide we don't want something, whatever the mural or whatever the nonsense, egregious waste of money this week is. But all of us in the surrounding counties get overridden by the votes in Cuyahoga. That's awful. But sometimes it occurs to me during the course of this conversation that sometimes to fix big problems, it takes great vision. And we don't have to look very far for great vision in this circumstance. And yes, once again, I'm going to refer back to our horrendous education environment. Hear me out for a moment, because I think there's a ready-made, glowing national example taking place real time on the national stage right now. Think about how far we've fallen and how much excess money gets wasted in our education system. And look at the feedback throughout America on the closing of the Department of Education. As the Department of Education closes federally, you have great, just tremendous joy throughout the nation at the ability to rein in local spending on our schools and stop being forced to overspend on egregious, awful, wrong, bad things. I think that is a template for these MPOs, these metropolitan planning organizations. Wouldn't it be wonderful? And sometimes all it takes is just a handful of people like me thinking big. And I know Skip mentions this often, and John Kalis talks about it. Rep. Dovilla talked about it. It right now feels like it's outside of the scope of possibilities, but let's start dreaming big. And yes, I am absolutely on board with the notion of separating away from Cuyahoga, and maybe Lake and Geauga team up, and maybe that's a stopgap answer, and maybe it helps. But I think the real answer in the big picture, long term, is to get rid of the thing. It's unconstitutional. It never should have been brought in the first place, just like the Department of Education. It is an egregious waste of federal, state, and local taxpayer dollars. And just like in education, it has been subverted and used incorrectly for all the wrong things. And just putting a finer point on that, if we go back to the original founding, the original principles of NOACA, it's roads and bridges. I invite you to spend some time driving around in Northeast Ohio and check the condition of our roads and bridges. There's a lot of work to be done there, and I'm guessing, just like Department of Education, I'm going to guess there that maybe 9% of the money that flows through it gets spent on education. Maybe, in similar fashion, if I'm right, 9% of the money that's supposed to go to fix our gosh darn roads and bridges, where you hit potholes in Northeast Ohio, they're so bad you need dental work after you hit them and car alignment. Maybe we have 50 plus years of our money being spent on all the wrong things. And maybe if we close the MPOs and get rid of them and get back to actually having local authority and making sound, rational decisions about how we spend our money, not on race-based equity, inclusion, diversity stuff, not on these climate change agenda, but on roads and bridges, maybe we could drive smoothly again and keep better care of our roads and bridges.
Mike, let me prime the pump with you a little bit, if you don't mind. I am looking at the representation chart for NOACA. 40% is Cuyahoga County. In the total count, the board has 5 state of Ohio members on the board. What the hell is a state of Ohio doing sitting on this council of government and having any say over things? It's like a conflict of interest. And so that's one place for you to look in terms of, right now, if you looked at the count, there's 3 Geauga, 5 Lake County, 7 in Lorain, 4 in Medina. So there's 19 total votes against 21 in Cuyahoga County and 5 state votes. So the state gets to usurp our local counties, and that those bureaucracies, the combined bureaucracy, really distorts where we go. I'll ask you to do me a favor. I've done this. Go to Transportation Boulevard, go to the Department of Transportation headquarters on Transportation Boulevard in Cleveland, and take a look at the number of people there, how much space that they're consuming, and what they're doing. You'll be shocked. It is a pure Doge opportunity. Go to the Department of Transportation in Columbus, Ohio. Right down there. Next time you go to the State House, drive over across the bridge to the Department of Transportation and take a look at the monstrosity of a building they've got, how many employees they've got, and what they're doing. Wander around in there quietly as a representative who has an opportunity to see the effectiveness of your government. And you'll come away with the idea that, wow, there's a real opportunity to get some taxpayer dollars back. So the next thing they start complaining about the fact, oh, we don't have enough money for infrastructure. Our roads and bridges are falling apart. We're going to take more tax dollars. No, if you end some of the nonsense, you will have more than enough money to take care of our infrastructure, our potholes and our bridges and our roads. So, I mean, there's lots and lots of opportunities.
What do you think about that, Mike? There's ways to doge it, I think. And do we really even need it? It's another layer of government that has no accountability to the taxpayers. They're just doing things, running it the way they want to. But what do you think about
Take a look at the employment list for NOACA and the 5 people they have set aside, I think it's 5, for equity. Now, we have an equity law that says they got to do away with those 5 bodies. They won't. They're going to be there. They're going to put them on something else. But it's nuts. It makes my head hurt.
Yeah, the answer is yes. There's a lot of opportunity for this, and not just in the transportation space, but across state and local government in Ohio. Another bill that I'm working now, it's still in the development stage, is to take a look at all the units of government that we have in this state. Ohio bears an unfortunate distinction of being number one in the number of taxing jurisdictions that we have here. And depending on how you count it, somewhere between 4,500 and 6,000 different local units of government that have some way of reaching into your wallet. So that's another bill I'm working right now, is to initially try to provide incentives. We're going to work this from the carrot side first to try to encourage consolidation, mergers, use the term you want. Some of those are probably dirty words already among folks. I don't care because it needs to be done. And we've done a lot at the state level to try and get our income tax under control. Obviously, the property tax piece is under serious consideration by folks all around the state as well as by the legislature. But the other side of the ledger needs to be dealt with, and that's the size and scope and spend of government. And we won't need so much in the way of tax dollars here in this state if we can get the size of government under control. So there's serious efforts underway to actually work this. And we've got a gubernatorial election next cycle, next year, and all the statewide and all of us are up again, and half the Senate. So opportunities to make really big change if the right folks get back into office or get into office for the first time in 2026.
I got you. Hey, one last question before you run, because I don't want to keep you any longer. But can we just switch gears here for 1 second? Can you give me an update on Medicaid? I know that you were looking into the Medicaid fraud, waste, and abuse in Ohio, and that's astronomical. Are you still working on that?
Oh yes, it's moved forward really nicely. I dropped House Bill 356 in June and then was able to roll all of that into the conference committee report on the budget in House Bill 96. So that bill had three components, and the three components survived when we shifted it into the budget. And those are, number one, authorizing and requiring the Auditor of State to conduct an audit of the age, blind, disabled population of Medicaid, the ABD population. Number two, requiring the Ohio Department of Medicaid to turn over the relevant data to the auditor and his staff so they'll be able to conduct that. And three, we put a specific appropriation of $5 million in place to actually help them pay for this, because this is something additional we're asking them to do. We didn't want them to have to take that out of Hyde. Auditor Faber runs a great office and a tight budget over there, so we wanted to provide the dollars for him to be able to do that and to bring in private sector assistance if needed. And you all may recall that the way we found out about this originally was a series of letters that we sent out to different private sector entities that maintain a lot of the data. And the responsive organization was LexisNexis. They have something like 90% of all bank account information in the country. And the thing we were asking them to do was asset verification. So anybody with more than $2,000 in liquid assets is not authorized to be on this program. And what we found was there's a significant number that are on the program, up to and including actual millionaires here in the state of Ohio who are receiving Medicaid benefits. So great progress on that. Sat down with the auditor and his team a couple weeks ago, his senior staff. They're on this, they're working it already, and we hope to see some results from that audit as quickly as we can. The idea is to try to roll up these data at the national level as well. A number of other states followed our lead. We were the first one out of the chute on this to really point this out and break this news, but Arizona, Georgia, I think about a dozen others, working with an organization called the Patient First Coalition that Shannon Burns and his team are active with, started working this. And if this gets rolled up in a timely manner for a second reconciliation bill at the national level, there's the opportunity for real savings to actually be realized before we go into the new budget year.
That's fantastic. Wow. Okay, so you're working with Shannon, huh? Or Shannon's working with you, I guess I should say.
Whichever it is. We're he's a constituent and obviously is great on a number of public policy issues, but this is one that he's working as well.
Wow. Okay. Well, I got to get him on the show. I got to get him on also so we can talk to him. He's a wealth of information. But I just want to say thanks. I don't want to hold you any longer because I don't want to overstay my my welcome, and then this way I can get you back on again sometime soon. But hey, keep up all the great work. We appreciate everything you're doing. You get the applause for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks, Joe. Thank you all.
Have a good night. Thank you, Mike.
You too.
Mike Dovilla, District 17. So he's right up there. He's right up there with Jennifer Gross, right? He's in several others.
Hey, Joe, I have been on for 10 years now. I've been reaching out to our state legislators, both on the House side and on the Senate side, and not one of them. I've asked Diane Grindell, and I asked one of your senators. I can't remember his name now. Was one of your county commissioners also. But I asked them all to do research on how we can change NOACA, and everybody told me nothing can be done at the state level. And what do you know? After 10 years, finally a guy steps up, Mike Dovilla, and says, "Yeah, we can do something." God, that's so refreshing.
Well, not only that, Skip, but he also stepped up and said, "Hey, we can do something with Medicaid fraud," and it's out there in the number of billions of dollars of Medicaid fraud. It's not just citizens; it's doctors, it's nurses, it's nursing homes, it's these healthcare facilities, on, pharmaceutical companies. Everybody is taking advantage of Medicaid. They're overbilling.
That's because it's so easy, and nobody catches them.
And
there's
no
downside.
Exactly. There's no downside. Nobody's catching them. And we have a fraud unit. This is hilarious. We have a fraud unit under the scope of the Attorney General, a Medicaid fraud unit. And when I looked at the numbers, they're getting like less than 0.5% of the fraud. That's what they catch per year. So 99.5% of the fraud never gets caught. Well, those are pretty good odds. And
do a public information request for how many donuts are buying on a Monday morning. So I bet their budget for buying donuts and coffee is pretty good, and they're not finding any fraud because they're spending all their time sucking down donuts.
You got it. All right. Has anybody got any thoughts? We'll kind of wrap it up with NOACA here. Last call for NOACA. But what's anybody thoughts on this? And what
I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to speak up on this, and I really like being with Mike. He's a fantastic individual. I'm really got high hopes for what he'll be able to accomplish there. But the parting comment that I'd make is people have the power. If people will stand up, go to the meetings and say no, provide input on this climate action plan to NOACA and say it's baloney, go to your county commissioners. Please go to your county commissioners and tell them enough is enough is enough. Stop this. Have a group of people. When we had 100 people show up at NOACA, it made a real difference. We just need to get people to show up, and it does make a difference.
It does. Yeah. Well, I applaud you too, Skip, for all the work you're doing. I really, you guys are all doing a great job, all of you. Jonathan, Brian, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Skip.
Yes. So thanks a lot,
No
Skip.
problem.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, we had a bunch of people out doing the property tax thing, switching topics a little bit. At Great
Oh, thank you very much.
Goods, and I'm told I got to get a total count on how many signatures they got. But they said they were getting 99% of the people were in favor, and there was a lot of people. So
Was this in Geauga County?
Yes, in Geauga County. They're going to continue doing that over the next few weeks. And so I'm guessing they got a few hundred people in 2 locations. And there's a lot of people that go through Great Lakes Outdoors Sporting Goods and Ralph's Fiddler, that's Ralph's Fiddler store. And he's given us full permission to collect signatures. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, this movement is really taking off.
Yeah, it is a good movement. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, guys.
Skip.
I appreciate it.
Thank you
I'll
very
sign
much.
off.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and giving us all the knowledge you have, and appreciate it.
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted. That's why you couldn't hear me. I was starting to talk. So, Skip, stick around. I think you're going to like this comment, and you may want to chime in. I muted I muted my mic because my dogs were barking a few minutes ago. So if you're in our listening audience and you haven't heard of something called the Delphi strategy, DELPHI, Delphi strategy, look it up because it is a major component of this NOACA roadshow. Know it. Once you know it, and there's some great videos, primarily some really good ones that I saw that came out of the San Francisco Bay Area, where they kind of retooled and reshaped and moved everything far left and just destroyed Northern California in that region. The same strategy is deployed by NOACA in this region. And to paraphrase, it looks something like this. They set out with an objective. Whatever the agenda is, they want to add bike paths or whatever. And then they go out with a questionnaire. And it'll look like a clipboard or a questionnaire online or a sheet that you can fill out in a meeting. But it is steered, it is engineered, it is a designed outcome. And it's kind of, to use an analogy, if you've ever been into a hard sell car dealer, that's what I think some of the same people that designed used car sales lots shifted over and focus on NOACA now. They have these meetings, and I was at the one in question that Joe mentioned at the beginning of this program. He read from the Maple Leaf. That actually was huge comedy. That was one of the funniest things I have ever experienced in my life. I was laughing so hard I thought I was going to crack a rib or something. They intended to get together a big audience in each county. So they went out with this roadshow thing, one in Cuyahoga, one in Lorain, one in Lake, one in Medina, one in Geauga. And not surprisingly, the overwhelming majority of people that showed up there were looking at them like, what are you even talking about? We don't want your nonsense here. Take your garbage and go away. We don't want a whole bunch of bike lanes out here in rural Geauga. Hardly anybody rides their bikes. But they design these questionnaires in a way that it's really sort of impossible it's hard to describe, and it's devious and awful. But you can get a group of people, like in Geauga County, we're rural out here, and they will leave the questionnaire. It'll be posted online sometime later, and somehow miraculously it shows that somehow, I'm air quoting this, 88% of Geauga County would like to add bike lanes everywhere. Nobody bikes out here. That's ridiculous. It's fiction, and it is engineered nonsense. Part of my reason for bringing that up is to tell you, first of all, it can be hugely entertaining to go and get involved in this stuff. You should experience it. And yes, we can still have a voice. There's that weird thing to get over, that Delphi strategy. But when you go into the meetings, it's important that we keep showing up. We keep going. If you have opportunity and can find your way into whenever they hold their meetings downtown in downtown Cleveland for the NOACA board, absolutely, go and do it. Listen in. You'll be astounded at what you find. Start posting online. Draw your friends into the conversation. Do live stream videos. And when they come to your county or they do an online questionnaire, I'm air quoting that again because it's fake. They're pre-engineered, designed outcome sorts of questionnaires with no flexibility. And just to give a little finer example to that, just imagine if I ask you, and I think people do it with small toddlers and children. Instead of, would you like vegetables with your dinner, they will ask you, do you want carrots or cooked carrots? And you don't have any other option. Like kids would be like, I don't want any vegetables. We the people are telling NOACA, we don't want anything to do with you, but that's not one of the boxes you're allowed to check. But do what I do, keep showing up to the meetings and use the little blank area to fill in and write in there, or use the margins, for heaven's sakes. Start fighting back. We have to do that. We have to organize and get the message out in Northeast Ohio. And again, for the rest of you throughout Ohio, know that there are 16 other of these MPO. And I think they're looking at NOACA. And I think if there's a major power grab and they have huge money, if they're successful and they do what they want to do and destroy this region the way that they want to, there's nothing stopping those 16 other ones. Act now. Get involved. Help Northeast Ohio and these 5 counties to fight back this dreaded, nasty beast. That's my call to action.
No, got you. Well, we're gonna hopefully do that. Well, anyhow, I'm gonna switch gears here tonight, guys. Let's talk a little bit about property taxes. Skip, if you want to stay on, you're more than welcome to. But I want to show you guys something here, and that is, I was out driving, and I happened to go past the Euclid High School, the new one that they just built. It's the biggest high school I've ever seen in my life. So I want to show you it. Okay, here's the video of it. Watch this. Watch this a second. That's the high school. Look at. A lot of tax money there. Lots and lots of tax money. You know, I'm doing like 30 miles an hour.
How many city blocks is that? Wow.
Yeah, and look at it. It goes all the way back, too, if you can see it there. Now, I want to show you something else real quick. This is the other side of it that you didn't see. Remember I stopped and I said it goes further back? Well, this is, let me start from the beginning. This is the further back area. Watch this. And
do you know anything about the enrollment, Joe?
I guess I could look up the enrollment. I do know that it is, they're one step above like the Cleveland public schools. They're really bad. Look at this. Look at the amount of money they spend. This is the side of it. This is not the same. Of course, it's a middle school, but they're connected. So the high school and the middle school are connected. They put 2 football stadiums, I noticed, back there. I don't know what they're doing, but they built a brand new stadium, and maybe they're just keeping the old one up as well. But it goes back there. And you can see a little bit of the stadium and stuff. It's a really, really beautiful stadium. But that is the biggest high school I've ever seen in my life for a failing school district. The other thing, too, is there was conservative groups. I don't know if you know Jeff Beck or not, but he was with his group, and they pushed back on levy after levy after levy, like 4 of them in a row. And I guess they slipped up on number 5 because somehow, way or another, this levy got passed. I mean, that's a huge bond issue and everything. But their property taxes have gone, crazy. So I wanted to show you that because pictures are worth 1,000 words. But let me just throw it over to you in your corner here for a minute. I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah, before we start property taxes, we should have Ken come in here and tell everybody about our Ohio Political News hats and our mugs.
Wait a minute.
The Josh
appreciate
Show that
support.
mug again. Let's see your hat. Let's see your hat there. Look at you got the mug.
It's got a very nice logo on the top.
Yeah.
So in the front.
That looks very
and
good. And
our mugs. I'm sure Jonathan's probably got his mug there too. So please support Ohio Political News.
Ken, are you with us here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so
Yeah,
tell us
definitely.
what's going on.
Yeah, also, definitely go over to ohiopoliticalnews.com/shop, and then you can go over to the news shop and get our new Save Our Homes shirts, red, white, and blue, and definitely check that out. We also have a bunch of mugs. But also share this if you're on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, whatever platform you're on. Share this. Sharing is caring. That's the best way to get the word out. But if you can support us in any way, there's a support us button up there to help. If you like what we're doing, also on Facebook, you can click on stars to support us. It's kind of like a super chat or a Rumble rant. Thanks for everybody that's watching. We appreciate it. We are on X. We're on Substack. We are on Truth Social still too. We're definitely go over to Facebook. Facebook is another great place to go to get a lot of information. But make sure to check out the website. We're getting a lot of people. People popping back onto the shop for all the different shirts. We're gonna add some more.
I like the mugs too. Mugs. Those are nice. I drink coffee out of my mug every morning. I have to start it off with the Ohio Political News morning. But you know what I was just thinking also, Kent? One other thing is, if anybody wants us to live stream on their Facebook page, we could do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody out there would like to have us have this show live streamed on their Facebook page, we'd love to do it. We'll do it for you. We'll do it. And if we're on several Facebook pages, not just our own, but on several others, and we'll gladly do that.
Yeah, and if there's something, any events or anything going on, let us know so we can, get out there and live stream it. Because a lot of times people don't want to say exactly what they want to say if it's not recorded. Like I know Brian does a lot now that everything's on a recorded broadcast. It's there, so we can definitely, if people are trying to get away with stuff that they shouldn't be, we can always cover that. But also, the idea is the live stream is just to get the word out to as many people as we can. We are on multiple platforms, like we said again, just Facebook and YouTube. We are also, if you're looking to do any events or anything, we also do live streams for events or anything like that. So let us know if you have any questions. I know Joe's email's on. It's just joe@ohiopoliticalnews.com, or you can put kent@ohiopoliticalnews.com. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and we're on X. We're on X right now. This is live on our X account right here. So anywho.
Yeah.
So anyhow, okay. Well, thanks a lot, Kent.
Okay.
So let's,
Thanks, Ken.
Brian,
Back to the property tax.
get on with the property tax. What's the latest? What's happening?
All right. Let me give you just a rundown of what happened this week. I was in Marietta on Monday, Xenia on Tuesday, and in Licking County on Wednesday, and we had 3 radio programs this week also. Wednesday of this coming week, we are going to be at the State House. We were invited to be on the State House TV program. I guess it was in the basement somewhere of the Capitol building. It'll be sometime after 2 o'clock. I believe it's live. But it's not live. It definitely will be recorded, but it's probably going to be live. So I'm going to be talking about property taxes, and also clearing up some misconceptions of. We had a group called Citizens for Property Tax Reform. We had one individual sort of leave the movement, and people thought that we were getting out of the business altogether, and nothing could be further from the truth. Again, I try to tell everybody we are a coalition of grassroots movement. We've got lots of groups throughout the property taxes. What we've heard before was he wants to abolish the income tax, and we're not supporting that because Governor DeWine has said that there's 2 main revenue streams for the schools, one being the income tax, the other being the property tax. So if they eliminate the income tax, ergo that would say that there's going to be a heavier emphasis on property taxes, which is going in the wrong direction. We are trying to collect the 413,000 signatures, that's what we need in valid signatures. But we're going to try to collect 500,000-600,000 so we can eliminate any of those that have been thrown out. We are hoping to go on the May ballot, May 2026. There's been some real discussions and confusions. Well, can you be on the May ballot? And what we are telling people is that the Secretary of State, I have a contact with the Secretary of State, a gentleman by the name of Alex Pavlov. He contacted me and he said he would be the go-between between our group and the Secretary of State. I asked him, for confirmation, something in writing that they said to me verbally at the ballot board, and that was that we can carry forward the signatures we received prior to July 2nd. We can carry forward for the May election. I also wanted confirmation that we could be on the May ballot, and they still have not, given us any information. All I really hear from the Secretary of State's office is that we really can't give you any legal opinion. I said, well, when will the May election take place? Well, we don't know because we haven't set that date yet. So it's going to be a moot point if we're asking everybody if to get everything, all the signatures into us by December 1st, so we have time to process everything before, a January 1st deadline. But even if we get the signatures, we're wondering, do we put it on the May ballot or do we put it on the November ballot, if we're allowed to, do both? But I had the thought as maybe it's not the committee's decision. Maybe what we should do is if this is truly a grassroots initiative, maybe we should have a poll, and maybe the citizens should decide, which do we go on the May ballot or November. But if the Secretary of State says that we can't be on the May ballot, then of course we'll definitely be on the November ballot.
Gotcha.
It's a lot of rhetoric, but
yeah. Property tax
seeing,
delinquencies.
It's an 80-20 issue, really, when I'm speaking throughout the state.
Yeah, it gets on the ballot, it's going to pass, and that's what they're afraid of. It gets on the ballot, it will pass, and so we're hoping and praying that we get the signatures, that we're able to collect. That's a lot of signatures to collect, and from 44 different counties.
Right, 44, yes.
44 it's got the momentum.
Have to have at least 5%.
It's got the momentum. I think it's going to happen. I'm very encouraged by everything I'm seeing and hearing on social media. Just to interject some comments, Joe, on Euclid schools, and we've gotten into this before. As one of the co-creators of the Ohio Academic Accountability Project. Hint, hint, audience, go to Protect Ohio Children. One of the drop-down menu is the Academic Accountability Project. You'll see a video with yours truly. I walk you through step by step how to do what I'm about to do. While Joe was talking and showing that video of the school, I went on to the Ohio Department of Education website, and I pulled up, you can get all kinds of stats and details. But the question was, how many students are there? And it's a good one because Joe is showing a giant brand new building. My first reaction to seeing the building, by the way, before even opening up the website and going to the Ohio Department of Education and pulling up these reports is, boy, oh boy, a few new millionaires, I'm sure, were minted in the construction of that monstrosity, because that's what happens. Construction is an endless way of laundering money into the pockets of people, and the overpriced construction, reconstruction, I've covered it ad nauseum. It's a constant grift, and we need to stop building, rebuilding, restructuring, re-engineering, re-roofing, repaving, relighting, re-Wi-Fiing. We need to stop all that, because that's where the money is going, and it's not going into education. But looking up Euclid schools, the answer to the question is diminishing population. 3 years ago, it was 4,725 total students. It dropped the following year to 4,447 students.
Wow.
And then it dropped last year to 4,432 students.
So
trending the wrong direction.
That includes elementary too, though, right?
That's the entire district.
Okay,
That's a good
because
point.
that building,
so that building
houses high school and middle school only,
Yeah, so we can look those up with a little bit more time. I just pulled the district because I was trying to do it.
But 4,000, that's insane.
Talking.
We've got probably 45 to 5,000 here in Cleveland Heights. Our school is nowhere near that size, although it's way too big and way too costly. Yeah. But yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely
Cleveland
crazy.
Heights did the same thing a few years ago. They rebuilt this huge monstrosity at whatever it was, $200 million per window or whatever. It's just, it's so ridiculous. For anybody who knows anything about construction, you know what the real cost should be of something like that, and then octuple it, and then get into your cost overruns.
One thing,
and
too,
all that stuff.
Jonathan, when I was at one of the school board meetings, real quick, I'll let you finish. I was at one of the school board meetings one time, and of course the school board, those people have to say yay or nay to the contractor, and if they want windows, this is what it's going to cost. And they'll come in and they'll say, okay, well, we're going to put windows in, and my bid is $100,000. And somebody else will come in and say, well, my bid's $120,000. Somebody else comes in and says, my bid's $150,000. And so immediately they say, wow, we're going to go with the guy that said $100,000 because that's the best deal, not knowing if it should be done for $50,000 or $40,000. You know, this is a small project, let's say. They don't know. The school board has no clue on that. They just say, oh, we'll go with the lowest bid and make it like they did their due diligence. It's
Yeah, well, there's
correct.
there's an old adage in the world of expense, and what is it? If you add the word wedding or baby to anything, you can double the price. I think
double,
it's something
triple,
along that line.
absolutely
If you
right.
add the word school, you can make up any number you want.
Well,
can-
you know, contractors talk to each other. They talk to
Yeah,
each
well,
other.
that's-
They say they
I
just
think
buddy
that's true as
with
well.
each other. Hey, I'll come in low ball, but my price will be twice what it's supposed to be, type deal. But go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And then who knows? Anything's possible there. And there are all kinds of deals that take place behind the scenes and everything. But ultimately, here's what I keep boiling it down to. We are last place most expensive. We are one of the last places on earth anybody should be thinking about trying to educate their children. I mean, setting aside the gender theory, confusion, anxiety, the sexual overdrive, the rampant drug and alcohol abuse, psychological abuse, setting all that aside, if you just simply want your kid to be able to add 2 plus 2 after 12 plus years, you'd be probably better off with an actual education in places all over the world that are little more than a mud hut with a chalkboard and kids sitting on the floor with textbooks. Somehow, miraculously, amazingly, they're able to spend $40,000 less per pupil. I'm just ballparking, it depends on the district. $17,000 per pupil less, and end up with a much, much better result. Actual, intelligent, capable, informed, educated children. That should be the objective. But there's one other piece that I pulled off just really quickly looking at it, because this comes up a lot on social media, and that is some of these districts have gotten heavily into race baiting. They are making everything racist. Richmond Heights is another great example of just latent, vile racism baked into the recipe. And there are all kinds of, I mean, just the fighting that's now running rampant. Euclid Schools is known for it. And there are question marks in that community. It's predominantly black with very few white kids. And so I looked that up. The white population, the identified of the 4,000, nearly 5,000 starting a few years ago, it's dropped from 261 white kids to 244 white kids to 241 white kids to 195 white kids out of 4,432. And people are reading the writing on the wall. I don't think that it's not just that families are pursuing better education, because all are. Black families, white families, Middle Eastern families, Asian families, they've given up on these government-run schools. But the race baiting in many of these districts is so ramped up. It's race baiting on steroids. And I mean, I could give you examples that would horrify you. The objective seems to be to try to it's like cage fighting, building cage fighters, getting these kids so hateful and angry at each other and dividing them in incessant drumbeat race baiting.
I mean, there can't be any more race baiting. It's all one race now.
Well, almost. And it got there through the steady migration away from education into what I call ABE. ABE. I call it ABE. Anything but education. They're focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and CRT, and sexual, what is it? SEL, social emotional learning. all this sex, gender theory, race baiting, new construction, anything. They will spend time and money on literally anything except educating the children. And along the way, they decided long ago that it wasn't their place to just simply allow kids to interact and learn on their own and go on their own. They had to bake race baiting into the recipe. And it's a disaster. It's every bit as awful as you can imagine. The videos of kids getting jumped and just the rampant, flagrant racism that exists in many of these districts is horrifying. It's completely anti-American and destructive. We need to recognize these things if we're ever to have hope of bringing America back and countering that.
Oh, you got it. Well, guys, I think we know what the problem is, but we're probably not going to be able to solve it tonight, right? All right.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Jonathan.
You guys
Thanks,
take
Skip.
care. Thanks again for coming on. Jonathan, Brian, thank you. God bless. Take care and keep up the great work. Talk to you real soon, guys.